Okay, so it's a little bit after 12. So we are going to get started here. So thank you everybody for attending. You all have something to eat and drink while we go through this. We will be going through this. We'll probably finish up in about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and then we will. I'll open it up for questions. We'll try. We're not going to have that many people, so we'll try using the audio towards the end and let people ask questions. But let's go ahead and get started. So I think everybody's got the instructions here, how to listen to the audio and how to ask questions. Just go ahead and use the chat system. We're monitoring that to see if anybody has any questions. I'll do my best to answer. All right, so today we are going to be covering SEO basics. We'll get into a few details, but by and large, we're going to be looking at things from a pretty, the 10,000-foot view. We will be having further digital marketing sandwiches later. We'll probably do a pay-per-click and a local SEO webinar as well. So first, I want to make sure that we all know what we are talking about. What's SEO? So here you see a search results page. Sometimes people in our industry call them the SERPs, search engine results page. And this is a search for SEO in Chicago. And this page is made up of three major pieces. You probably all know this, but I just want to make absolutely sure. The first one is, and usually the most, is the paid section, okay? Now, usually there are three paid ads at the top and down the side. And it's exactly what it says for. You pay to be in these places. You probably heard it, Google calls it AdWords. All Bing and Yahoo call it Ad Center. But you pay to be in these places. Those are advertisements, all right? The second part of the page is what we call local SEO. Local SEO means Google thinks, okay, you're looking for something, and so I will, Google's going to try to make recommendations of local businesses that hopefully can answer the question you just typed in. All right. So the page is already taken up, and we haven't even started talking about the third area, which is what we call organic SEO. And organic SEO is, what most people say, oh, I want to rank #1 on Google. Well, they're usually talking about organic SEO. And you can see it's the smallest part of most search results pages. This search result page is from Chicago. And for those of you, all over the country, you probably see things slightly different. Chicago is a test market layouts. And so unfortunately, we see things, they change all the time. But by and large, it's been pretty stable with this layout for quite a while. All right, so today we're not going to be talking about the green boxes. We're not going to be talking about paid. We're going to be talking about the blue boxes. We'll talk a bit about local SEO, and we're going to be talking about how to make him get into the little red area. Now, this is not the full page. This is, if you were able to scroll down, you'd see more organic down below the local SEO. Okay, so now that's what we're going to be talking about. Getting into the red part and the organic and getting into the local. All right, so our agenda for today. We're going to be talking about 5 different aspects of SEO. The first part is about keywords, and it's probably going to be the biggest section of this. Keywords are the basis of all internet marketing. Having good keyword information, good data, is what should be driving all of the decisions that you make in your internet marketing. So we're going to talk about keywords a bit. We won't be talking about how to do keyword research, and maybe we can talk about that at the end, but I'm going to be talking about different types of keywords and how to think about keywords. Then we're going to be talking about on-page SEO. On-page SEO means Google wants certain things on every page of a website. We want to, and I'll be telling you what those things are and how you can be more Google friendly. Then the next one is on-site SEO. On-site SEO is Google has certain things that they want a website to do, or to content that they want on a website, and we'll make sure you know all of those things. Then we'll talk about local SEO, so getting on that map, and then we'll talk about organic SEO and what you have to do to get into the top 10. All right, so let's start with keywords. I've got one person saying that they can't hear me. So can somebody in the chat room let me know if you can hear me? Oh, okay. Yep, cool. All right. So we had one person who said they couldn't hear me. All right. All right, so let's keep going. All right. Here, we're going to talk just a little bit about basic marketing here for a second, and then we'll tie it into online or internet marketing. So when people are going to make a purchase, they tend to go through a funnel, and they start off at the top of the funnel. A whole lot of people start up at the top where they're just becoming aware of something. So let's say you're just becoming aware of this somewhat new kind of coffee, where they pour the coffee for you fresh with a really fancy kettle, okay? And it's called pour over coffee, all right? And you go into a local coffee shop and they ask if you want to try pour over coffee. And you're becoming aware of it, all right? You're just getting started. And then you say, you know, hey, this is pretty cool. I wonder what I can do, learn about it and what makes this so different, okay? And so you start doing a little bit of research, and then maybe you delve into a little bit more and say, you know, hey, that kettle is pretty cool. I wonder how much those things cost. And then you might drop down into shopping and go to Amazon and go all over trying to find out what do those kettles cost. And eventually you might end up buying something, these kettles or the kit to help you make pour over coffee at home. So it's just a process that most people kind of go through when they're going to purchase something. They become aware of it, they become a little bit interested in it, maybe start to learn about it. Eventually they begin shopping, and then ultimately buy. And so for most of your clients, that is the funnel that you're hoping they will go through. All right, so now how does this relate to internet marketing? Well, let's shift gears a little bit and let's take a look at keywords. All right, now there is a continuum of types of keywords. So on this graph is kind of a representation. On the vertical axis, we have the number of searches that might happen for a keyword per month. And then across the horizontal axis, we have just all the possible keywords. So an example might be if you're a coffee shop. So on the left side, the really tall bars, words like coffee and coffee shop would get enormous amounts of searches per month. All right, but down on the other end of the graph, where you have keywords that are not being searched for very often, and I should say, so the high volume keywords, things like coffee, coffee shop, those we call head keywords. All right, and then on the other end of the scale, where we have keywords that are not searched for very often, we call them long tail keywords. Now, long tail keywords tend to be very, very specific. Let's say coffee shop in Bucktown that has Wi-Fi. Okay, and Bucktown's an area of Chicago. So that person is doing a search. They're being very, very specific. Now, those searches aren't going to have as much volume. They're not going to be searched for as often as keywords like the word coffee or coffee shop. All right. So the reason they're called long tail keywords is because the number of keywords that have these very long, very, very specific searches go off to the right for a long time, and it makes that graph have a long tail. So they're called long tail keywords, opposite end head keywords, and in the middle, we usually call them middle volume keywords. All right, now let's tie this together with concept. So if we take a look at the graph and we rotate it and then we double it for good measure, what does that look like? It should kind of look a little bit like a funnel. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because there's a very, very strong analogy between the number of searches and where people are in the buying funnel. So when people are searching for keywords like coffee or coffee shop, they are very high up in the buying funnel. They don't really know what they're looking for. They're just looking for any information and then to help them drill down, right? But when people are being very, very specific, when they say, I'm looking for a coffee shop in Bucktown that has Wi-Fi, okay, they're being very, very specific, and they are much closer to purchasing. They are getting very, very close to pulling the trigger and buying something, okay? So when you are thinking about keywords and the keywords for your businesses, you have to pay very, very close attention to where is that keyword on this continuum. Is it a head keyword, a middle volume keyword, long tail keyword? All right, and we're going to be talking about that and using that vocabulary throughout the rest of the presentation. All right, so keywords. The takeaways from keywords are that I want you to take away today from this are that keywords indicate what the person's intention is. If they are general keywords, they are going to indicate that someone is very high up in the buying funnel. Why would you want to focus on those? Well, you might want to focus on head keywords if you are at a point where you are where your website is so powerful that you can rank for coffee shop or you can rank for coffee. You're going to be competing with Starbucks and Folgers, Dunkin' Donuts, but perhaps in your business or in your world, you're going to be able to start going after those massive keywords. But for most of us, most of small businesses, medium-sized businesses, you have to set your sights a little bit lower and start going after the long tail keywords, or perhaps the middle volume keywords. And we'll be talking a bit about that. So long tail keywords are really, really important. When I meet with prospective clients or people who are thinking about working with us, very often I hear, oh, I know what my keywords are. You know, I sell eyeglasses. I'm an optometrist, so my keywords are glasses and eye exam. Well, those aren't really good keywords. Those are head keywords where you're going to have an enormous amount of competition, and it's going to be unlikely that you're going to rank for those keywords. You're not going to get onto the first page very easily. So it's much better to be looking for long tail keywords. What are people very specifically looking for that would make sense for your business? All right, so keywords. Next, we're going to talk about on-page SEO. On-page SEO means what on every page of your website, what is Google looking for? What is it that they want to find? And we're going to be talking very, very specifically about keywords here. All right, so when Google comes to your website, so here's a screenshot of a blog post that we did a while ago. And when Google comes to this page, they're trying to figure out, okay, what's this page about? What are they trying to get across with this page? And they look for keywords in 6 different places on the website and in a particular order. So these are particular places that Google is searching for keywords to try to figure out what is the content of this website. So the first place that they look for keywords is in your domain. So in this case, Chicago Style SEO. So you probably understand maybe why we named our company Chicago Style SEO. We wanted to be very competitive for the keywords SEO in Chicago. And so it used to be that Google put an enormous amount of strength in keywords in your domain. And Google finally realized they'd gone too far because companies that had pretty big brands were not using their brand in their domain. Instead, they started using domains that had a lot of keywords in them. And so Google realized, this is a mistake. We need to turn down the power of having keywords in your domain. And so they turned up the power of keywords that are in the rest of your URL. All right. So the first place they look is in your domain for keywords. And then the second place they look is in the rest of the URL for this page. And they're trying to find keywords in here that will help them understand what this page is about. So in this example, they start seeing things like 5 tips and guest bloggers. All right. And they do go left to right. So if the keywords are further to the left, they're a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit more powerful than keywords that are way down, further to the right. Okay. So again, first place they look for keywords is in the domain. Second place is in the rest of the URL. Now, if you've something like, if your website was built on WordPress or something like WordPress, you get to control exactly what that URL says. And it's a really good idea to take some time and think about it when you're building a new page. All right, now the third place that the search engine or that Google is looking for keywords is in what's called your title tag. And a title tag is, again, if you're on something like WordPress or Joomla or Drupal, that's some sort of a content management system, you're able to control in the back end a place that says title, the title of the page. And it's another place where you really should try to get keywords. This is a place where we really, as SEOs working for our clients, that we play with keywords. We make changes in here and then wait to see what impact it has on the search results. So this is a place where you can play. You should not play with keywords in your URL. Once you've published a page, it is best not to change the URL unless you really know what you're doing. If you don't know what the words 301 redirect mean, then do not change your URLs to try to optimize them. Going forward, try to get keywords into them, but don't go back. All right, so first place they look again is in your domain. Second is the rest of the URL. Then they look in your title tag. The fourth place they look is inside of the headline on the page. Now, there is a caveat with this. That headline has to be inside of some HTML that are called an H1 tag. Okay, the people who built your website have to have done it so that your headline is nestled inside of what's called an H1 tag. And just ask your developer, are all of my headlines in H1 tags? That is an area where Google looks to say, okay, yes, we're going to give special significance to keywords that are in that headline. All right. The fifth place that they look for keywords is then in the body of the post or the page. And they're looking for, if we're going after, in this case, our keywords that we wanted to go after were guest bloggers, and in particular, tips for guest bloggers. So in the body of this post, we repeated guest blogger, tip for guest bloggers several times in the body of the email of the post. Now, there's a lot of debate over how many times you should repeat the keyword. One thing that you have to be very wary of is Google does not want you to do what they call over optimization. They don't want this page to say guest blogger 20 times. That's called keyword stuffing. And keyword stuffing can get you into a lot of trouble. So just write naturally. And then after you've written, come back and maybe do some adjusting in the editing phase of going in and adjusting a little bit and say, oh, here I said bloggers that like to do guest posts. And maybe I can reword that so that I can get it to say guest bloggers. So there is no magic number. We usually think 3 to 5 times in the body of the post would be good, but if it's a short post of only a couple paragraphs, that's too much. So it is fairly subjective. All right, so that's the 5th place that Google's looking for keywords on every page. This last place, the 6th place, is keywords connected to the photo. There are 2 places that you can put keywords in to each picture on a web page. So the first place is in what's called the alt text of the photo. All right, so when you're putting it onto the page, and again, let's assume you're using WordPress or Drupal or Joomla or some CMS. When you're putting a picture in, they're going to give you the option of inserting what's called alternative text. And it's usually called alt text. And what that is in the old days when we had really slow modems, the alt text was the text that would appear for the photo while the photo was slowly coming in over the very slow modem. But the search engines picked up on this saying, okay, that should be a really good description of this picture. So we're going to look for keywords there to tell us what this picture is about. The second place in a photo that you can put keywords is in the file name. So if this file name of this American, what we call American blogger, if that says, something about guest post bloggers.jpg, okay, something like that, then we're getting the keywords one more time on the page. Even though nobody sees those words, they're in the code itself, Google sees them. All right, so quick review. Said it several times, but just to make sure, Google's looking for keywords in 6 places. They're looking for it in your domain, which you can't really have control over at this point, in the rest of the URL, in your title tag, in the H1 tags of the website, which should be your main header, in the body of the text, and then in the photos. All right. So, takeaway from on-page SEO. If you want to rank for a particular keyword, all right, so let's say you're going after a middle volume keyword, something like, let's say, coffee shop in Bucktown, all right? You want to rank for that keyword, you have to make sure that you have one page dedicated to that keyword, where you can put that keyword into the URL, into the title tag, into the header, into the body, and into any photos. That will give you the greatest chance, the greatest opportunity to rank for that particular keyword. So in my business, what's important is, for us, an important keyword is Chicago SEO, or SEO in Chicago, or pay-per-click in Chicago. So if you look at our website, you'll find that we have pages that are just about that particular thing, because we want the opportunity to rank for those keywords. If we didn't have one page about that, we wouldn't be able to. If I had a page that said our services and a bulleted list of 10 things that we do, all of the information is in a jumble, okay? And it's going to be impossible to rank for any of those keywords that are in that list. That's why it's really important to make one page about the keywords that you want to go after. All right, so decide what that keyword is and then optimize the page for it. And by optimizing the page, I mean make sure your URL contains the keyword, the title tag does, the header, the body repeats it a few times, and the photo, any photos kind of have some of the keywords connected to the alt text and the file name. All right, so that's on page SEO. All right, so we've covered keyword, some keywords, information on keywords, and on-page SEO. Next, we're going to talk about on-site SEO. And on-site SEO are the things that Google wants you to do, that your website should be doing. Not just one individual page, but the entire website. All right. So the first and absolutely most important thing is that your entire website is crawlable. All right. And what that means is that Google and all the other search engines can send one of their robots to your website, and the robot will be able to hit the home page and then follow the navigation on your website to all the other pages on your site. It's just unbelievable to me. Just today, we got a request for an evaluation of somebody's website. First thing we did is check to see, we went to Google and did a search for their company name and their company address. I mean, their company domain, looking for how many pages Google had in their database about that company. They had one, their home page. And that usually indicates that their robots cannot crawl their website. We looked around, and sure enough, they had this fancy website that the search engines could not crawl. And so their whole website was invisible to Google except their homepage. So first thing you have to make sure of is that the search engines can crawl your website. Now, that's really unusual these days. When Flash was super, super popular, Flash could not be crawled. And so that was an enormous problem. But today, most of your websites are going to be easily crawled. If you can find multiple pages in Google from your website, then more than likely your site's being crawled just fine. All right, the next thing that Google wants is they want your website to be fast. Websites started getting super complicated 3-4 years ago. They started adding a lot more these technologies, JavaScript and Ajax and all these different technologies that slow down websites quite a bit. And Google saw this was a problem, that the web was literally slowing down. So Google and Yahoo got together and said, all right, we are going to both, and Bing, and we're going to agree that we are going to reward websites that are faster. Okay? And they have a lot of reasons for it. If you're an on-site, online, my goodness, an online retailer, there's enormous numbers of studies that show that if you can shave milliseconds off of how fast your website loads, you will get more conversions. More people will purchase from you. If you have online content and you can speed up your sites, the data is incredibly clear. The faster your website loads, the more pages people will read on your site, and the longer they will spend on your site. So this is a technical aspect that it's something that you have to be pretty technical to fix this, but you can find this for yourself. If you just do a search for Google page speed, okay, Google page speed, you'll find a page that lets you put in your URL, and Google will give you a score between 0 and 100 of how fast, and basically how much they like your website from a speed perspective. And they will tell you what problems you have and what you need to fix. Okay, the next thing that Google really wants to see is this little file called a robots.txt file. Okay, and first I'll tell you what it is, and then I'll tell you where it should be and how to see if you have one. So a robots.txt file is instructions for the search engine's robots on what they can and cannot do. So this file usually, for most websites, it just says, hey, all robots, you can look at my whole website. Some more sophisticated websites will say, hey, robots, you can look everywhere on my website except stay out of the admin folder or stay out of the WordPress folder, something like that. And it's just telling the robots, this is none of your business, don't go in there. And they do follow that. They don't go in. They don't make copies of those pages. All right. Now, to see if you have a robots text file, what you do is you go to your domain, you go to a browser and you type in your domain /robots.txt. So for me, I would go to chicagostyleseo.com/robots.txt. And if you get a page that shows up that has a little bit of code in there, in some cases it might be a lot of code, you've got a robots text file and everything's okay. If you get a page that says, oops, that doesn't exist, then you've got a problem and you need to talk to the people who made your website and say, why don't I have a robots text file? Okay. The next one is an XML sitemap. An XML sitemap is, again, another kind of geeky thing where it is basically a list of all of the pages of your website that is in a particular format that the search engines love. It tells them all the pages that you have on your website. It tells when was the last time the website was updated or that page was updated, and gives them quite a bit of information that they can just pull into their database super quickly. And they really like XML sitemaps, and they reward websites that have them. Now, again, for you to see if you have an XML sitemap, just go to your browser, type in your domain /sitemap, SITEMAP, sitemap.xml. Okay, so for example, on my site, chicagostyleseo.com/sitemap.xml. Hit enter. And if you get a whole bunch of gobbledygook that looks like indented, all kinds of indented text, then you've got an XML sitemap. If you don't see that, if you get an oops, that doesn't exist error, it means you don't have an XML sitemap. You should be talking to your developers about why not. Okay. So again, just to kind of take a step back, we're looking at the things that Google wants to see on all websites. And of course, they want to be able to crawl your website. They want your website to be fast. They want you to have this robots.txt file with instructions on what they can and can't do. And they really like it if you have an XML sitemap so that they can very quickly digest all of the information that's on your website. And let me make one more point about XML sitemaps. When you see a sitemap, some websites will have, our sitemap, and you click on it and it's a list of all their pages and you can click on those. That is not an XML sitemap. That's a sitemap for humans. An XML sitemap is for the search engines and their robots. Okay, the next thing that you really should, viewer 10, whoever it says, hey, I've got a robots text file. Okay. All right, now the next thing that you really need to make sure you have is what's called Webmaster Tools. And this is an account with Google. So basically go to a browser and do a search for Google Webmaster Tools, all right? And in the results will be, at the top of it will be Webmaster Tools. Go to that page and try to log in, okay? If you're logged into anything in Google, it will try to log you in to that page as well. But see if you're logged in. If you're not, you need to create a Webmaster Tools account, okay? And all the instructions will be on that page. Webmaster Tools is the place where Google is going to communicate with you about what they think about your website. They give you a ton of information inside of Webmaster Tools. They give you information on what people are searching to come to your website. They give you information on if you're doing things that they don't like keyword stuffing, or that you've got, they're going to tell you all the websites on the internet that link to your site. And they're going to tell you that if they think those are good links or if they're spammy links. They give you an enormous amount of information. And it's very important that everybody who's got a website be kind of checking in with Google through their Webmaster Tools account. So if you don't have one, again, just do a search for Google Webmaster Tools and follow the instructions. You're probably going to need the help of your developer unless you're a little bit geeky, because they have to put a little bit of code on your website to prove that you own your website, that you have control over it. But Webmaster Tools is a really great tool. Google's going to tell you what you need to improve. And things like sitemap, site speed is built into there as well. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about, there are a ton of different things we can talk about, but the last one that I'm going to talk about today is your privacy policy. And a privacy policy should be there should be a link to your privacy policy in the footer of every page on your website. Okay, Google considers this to be good user experience. What they want to see in your privacy policy is at least two things. For most sites, two things. The first one is they want you to disclose what you are going to do with personal information that you collect on the website. Okay, so if you say anywhere on your website, email me at rod@chicagostyleseo.com. Okay, that means I'm soliciting you to send me your email address. Essentially, Google wants to know what you're going to do with that information. If you've got a form on your website saying, contact us, fill out this form, anything like that, in your privacy policy, you should be saying what you're going to do with that personal information. And of course, the correct answer is we will never share or sell this information. The second thing that Google wants to see is if you're using anything like Google Analytics, you are putting cookies on people's browsers. You're tracking them. That's one of the things that analytics does. And Google wants you to fess up to that and to let everybody know, hey, we're putting cookies on your browser so that we can track the traffic to our website, essentially. And so if you are putting cookies on somebody's browser for any reason, you really should have that in your privacy policy as well. So again, your privacy policy should be a separate page that says, Chicago Style SEO's privacy policy. And then you should have a link to that page in the footer of your website so that it appears on every page of the website. Okay, now I want to just before we move on, take kind of one big picture. And that is that SEO is, and all these things that I'm telling you, none of them are silver bullets. None of these things are going to make it possible for you to, if you add a robots text file, that's not going to propel you to #1 for the word coffee in Chicago. Okay, these are all small little pieces. I usually call them, doing SEO is a lot like building a brick wall. And all of these things are just little bricks. And you're going to just have to keep piling them up and piling them up. None of these things are going to make a wall for you. They're going to just be one piece in what will help make your wall. All right, so your takeaways from on-site SEO is there's a lot of small things to do, right? There is not one thing that's going to make Google absolutely love your website. There's just lots of little things that you can do to get that little gold star from Google. Like, oh, you got a robots text file, good for you. Oh, you got an XML sitemap, good for you, gold star. All right. Now, most of the things that I talked about are somewhat technical, and so you might need to talk to your developer, a geek that a lot of these things you can just do some research on the web, and if you've got something like, again, like WordPress or Drupal or Joomla controlling your website, you're going to find tons of instructions on how to do all these things. All right, so let's move on. So we've talked about keyword, on-page and on-site SEO. Now let's move on to local SEO. Local SEO. All right, so I did a search for the word bakery in Chicago, and Alliance Bakery and Cafe came out as #1. All right, Dinkles, which is my favorite, came out as #2. This is what a somewhat typical local SEO search results will look like. Now, down below the pins, we call the most pins that Google will show are 7. So SEOs call this the 7-pack. And below the 7-pack, then you start getting to the organic search results. So Oak Mill Bakery is ranking #1 for organic search results. But Alliance and Dinkles and Rosers and Swedish Bakery and Tipsy Cake, those are ranking for local SEO. Now, local SEO has a completely different algorithm, a completely different way of measuring who's going to be #1 than the system, the algorithm that determines who's going to rank #1 for organic SEO. It's completely different. And the good news is if you're a local business, it's much easier to have an impact on local SEO than it is on organic SEO. And so for local businesses that we work with, this is where we always recommend you start. All right, so you have to, there are a lot of different things you can do, but what we're going to focus on is what are called building citations. And it doesn't mean going out and getting traffic tickets. It means going out and getting your business listed in places that Google likes. All right, so what do you have to do? The first thing you have to do is decide on your NAP. NAP stands for name, address, and phone number. All right. If you have different ways of presenting your address, or if you go by different names, sometimes, you know, like for us, if we went by Chicago style, and sometimes we go by Chicago style SEO. All right. Online, it is best if you decide we will always go by this name. We will always go by Chicago style SEO. Okay. And you should also decide what address you are going to go by. All right. So for us, for example, we can use Suite 3. Our address is 2020 North Lincoln Park West Avenue. We should be as consistent as possible in adding, do we use the word avenue or not? All right. Do we do AVE period? The more consistent we can be. Are we going to say Suite 3 or are we going to say number 3 or #3? All right. We made a decision on this, and we're going to be consistent everywhere we put our address on the internet. And then phone number. If you've got an 800 number and a local number, use the local number. All right. If local business is important to you, you need to use the local number because Google is going to give preference in those local search results for local phone numbers. All right, so don't use your 800 number unless that is the larger part of your business. All right, so what do you do with this? Well, the way that Google decides who gets onto that map is they look at they go out and try to find the name, address, and phone number of the business in places that they trust. So the easy one is the Better Business Bureau. Okay, they go into the Better Business Bureau's page and they look to see if they can find Chicago style SEO in there. It doesn't have the same address and the same phone number. If it does, boom, it's a match, and they say, hey, that's called a citation. And we've got a citation from the Better Business Bureau, or from another one that everybody knows is Yelp. That's a citation in Google's eyes, or City Search and Cityscape. There's all kinds of directories out there. Now, there's going to be directories also for your particular industry, and so the goal is to get into those directories as well. So how do you build these citations? The first thing you do is you do searches and find out which of your competitors are on the map. Then you do a search for their NAP, their name, address, and phone number, okay? And that will give you a list of all the places that Google is finding that name, address, and phone number on the internet. And they might show the Better Business Bureau and Yelp and all these different places that you can be. And hopefully, if your competitor is doing well, there might be a list of 5, 10 pages of different places that Google has found that name, address, and phone number. Write those all down. Okay, my competitor is on this website. My competitor is on this website. And what do? You note where they are, and then you get your listing there as well. Now, you do that with everybody in the 7-pack for a keyword that's important to you. So again, if you're an optometrist in Omaha, you do a search for optometrist in Omaha, find out who the 7-pack is, and do this research. Find out their name, address, and phone number, do a search for their name, address, and phone number, and find out what directories they're in. Okay? And basically you are, I won't say copying, you're emulating your competitors and trying to do the same, get into the same places that they are. Now, another thing that you can do that will help local SEO is to find ways to get into local blogs. Okay, so in Chicago we have things like the Chicagoist and Chicago Cranes Business and all these different websites, these blogs that are very specific to Chicago. And one of the best things you can do to get onto that local SEO map is to get a link, not just your name, address, and phone number, but a link from these websites to you. One of the best ways you can do that is ask them if you can write a post, if you can write some content for their site. That we will probably have another presentation or a webinar on how to do well with guest blogging. It's an art in and of itself. All right, so covered 4 areas. Let's move on to the last one, organic SEO. And you've probably heard about 2 major updates to Google's algorithm that have happened recently. Hang on, somebody's asked a question. What if you have a home business and don't want to list the address specifically? All right, that's a very, very common question, and the answer is unfortunately bad news. You have to have an address in order to rank locally in Google. You just have to. And something that I didn't say that I really should have is that when people are doing a search on a phone, on a smartphone, the local database, the local algorithm plays an enormous part in that. Okay, especially on map searches, of course, but even in the organic searches, that if you don't have an address, if you're not ranking well in the local search results, you're not going to do well on cell phones and tablets either. Okay, so you really have to make a decision on what you're going to do. So when I started Chicago Style SEO 6-7 years ago, I was working out of my home, and I bit the bullet and just used my home address for our address so that I could get onto that map. I know it's a problem for a lot of people. One solution that does not work is getting a UPS box. Google knows where every UPS store in the United States is. I mean, it's not going to help. They're going to know that it's a UPS store. So there's no simple answer to that. Okay, organic SEO. Google has implemented 2 enormous algorithm changes recently. You might have read about a third that just happened a few weeks ago called Hummingbird. Hummingbird has really not had an impact too much on the rankings. That was more of them putting a new engine into their system. That it really doesn't change the look and feel of the system. What it did was gave their system infrastructure for them to move to the next levels. So Hummingbird at this point doesn't look like it's been having much of an impact on the rankings. However, Penguin and Panda did. So the first one was Panda, and this was about 1.5 years ago, that basically they created a system that allows Google to read, that Google can now read a web page and decide whether the content is good or bad content. They can decide if it's really thin content or if it's really got a lot of information in it. And they're going to give preference to the pages that have good, dense information. All right. This is all done algorithmically, and it gets better and better and better. So Google can basically read now, and they are making judgments of whether your content is good content or not. They're looking to see if it's unique. Did you copy 3/4 of it from Wikipedia? or even from, somebody who's doing the same thing in Alaska. They're not a direct competitor to you, but did you grab the content from their website to build your site, which we see quite often. So Google now is forcing companies and people who want to do well on the web to create unique, good content through their Panda algorithm. Now, the Penguin update is different. What it's looking for is, do you have spammy links? Okay, SEO has been a game of trying to get as many links from other websites to your website. And it used to be that Google didn't really care or didn't pay too much attention to where you were getting those links from. So if you were a baker, but you got a whole bunch of links from a Harley Davidson website and then a whole bunch of other links from a shoe retailer in India, they didn't really care. They didn't pay too much attention to it. Those were links and they were votes. But now with the Penguin update, what Google is doing is paying very, very close attention to the context where those links are coming from, right? And if you are getting links from, if you're a baker and you're getting links from food blogs, fantastic. That's an enormous vote basically for your. But if you are getting those links from websites that have nothing to do with your business and you're doing it systematically, there's a lot of them, Google is going to penalize you. All right. So these two things combined have changed SEO completely and how to move forward and to get rank for keywords that are important to you. What it has meant is that you have to develop content that is unique and that people like to share. Okay, that if you put content on your website, if you put up a blog post and then you share that blog post on Facebook and Twitter, and people start on Facebook and Twitter say, hey, this is really good, there's really good information here, and they link back to, if they like your blog post or they tweet about it, any of that, Google looks at that and goes, all of those things are endorsements of the quality of the content. And the more of those endorsements you get, the more Google is going to like that particular page. And then the more pages that Google likes on your website, the more they're going to trust your entire website. Okay, so this goes back to on-page SEO. All right, you have to write a really good page about a particular keyword that you want to focus on, and then share that with the world, usually through social media, and hope that they will chatter about it, that they will tweet, they will Google Plus it, that they will, like it or share it on their Facebook wall. Right? The biggest thing about organic SEO is that it has slowed down tremendously. And it used to take us a few months, maybe 6 months, to start to see results for our clients. Now we're looking at 6 months to a year to see results for clients, and it's an enormous amount of dedication. The takeaways for organic SEO. It's slow. It's a long-term goal. If you're just starting a website, you should not be counting on having organic search results helping you for a long time, like a year. It's all about content. It's all about promoting that content, mainly in social media, and then working to try to get links from relevant other websites back to your website. All right. Wow, that took me longer than I expected. That does wrap it up. So unfortunately, we don't really have enough time to do much question and answer. However, you can always email me and ask any questions. This was recorded. We're going to be putting this up on our blog, so you're going to be able to see it again. If you'd like to keep learning about SEO, one suggestion is, you knew this was coming, follow us at Twitter. We have a really active Twitter account, not active crazy like 100 a day or anything, but we usually 3-4 tweets a day that have a lot of information about what's going on in the SEO world. You can also sign up for our newsletter. Go to our website, look in the right column, and you'll see a little place where you can put your email address. That comes out once a month, and it summarizes everything that's been in our blog and just basically what's going on in the SEO world. You can also, if you've got a website and you'd like us to take a look at it from an SEO perspective, you can go to our website, and that big green button at the top is a free website evaluation. Just fill out that form. I promise I'm not going to spam you or anything, but one of our guys, a guy named Ben Hicks, will go through your website and evaluate it, give you an idea of what Google is thinking about your website. You're going to see on that evaluation a lot of the things that we talked about today. We'll be giving you what does Google score on your site speed. How many links do you have coming into your site? A lot of things. Okay. I'll upload this presentation to our website. I'll send out an email to all of you with a link to where you can download this presentation, and this was recorded, so we'll make that available as well. Okay. Thanks a lot for attending. We'll let you know. We're going to end up having more of these around pay-per-click, one specific to local SEO with a lot of information. We'll probably do one on keyword research. We plan on doing quite a few of these. So thank you, and hope to see you at one.